Hi, everybody. Wow, I knew I was going to see a lot of pretty people at an actor screening, but you guys are gorgeous. Look at this guy. Yeah. So, what a great way to spend a Saturday afternoon, right? Great movie, huh? Well, we are very lucky to have the writer, the co-directors, and one of the co-stars here to come out and talk with us. And let's bring them on out. Simon Helberg, Jocelyn Towne, and Melanie Lynsky. Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you guys so much for coming. That is really cool. What an odd time to see a movie. 5, but we thought dinner, we thought people want to have dinner after, and it's a civilized time, so thank you.
So I think we're all in agreement this is a wonderful romantic comedy, and we all noticed that little tagline at the beginning of the film, based on a true story. Who on earth could that be based on?
I wish I could lie quickly and say it's not us, but it is. It's our story, based
Yes,
on
indeed.
our story, and we're married now. For
Give it up for love, guys.
yeah, yeah. So thankfully that was the rough part, and it was all worth it. But yeah, it's loosely based on us. I did follow her to Paris. I did confess compulsively at the worst times, and did run back and forth and just self-destruct basically over and over again. So I think it's kind of a common quarter life crisis sort of theme.
Well, you took what could clearly be seen as a tumultuous time in your relationship and made something very positive and funny and loving. And when you sat down to write it, was that your intention? Did you just need to get something out? Like, how did that come about, wanting to write it down?
I thought that it was so tragic that it really just transcended that barrier and was kind of, every time I told people the story, they laughed, but it wasn't, it was the head smacking, kind of gagging laugh. And I thought, all right, let me, at least therapeutically, I'll write this down. And I told Joss that I was going to attempt that.
Meanwhile, I had never even told my friends and family most of what had happened between us.
Yeah, I kind of fucked up one more time.
And then he comes home and he's like, I pitched it as a story idea. I was like,
yeah,
okay.
I fucked up one last time when I started to talk to people. I did start to, I kind of inadvertently came out in some different meetings and talking about, and I ended up, was going to potentially write it for a company, but I didn't want to lose any control over it, and I walked away from doing that. And I came home and I said, "Oh my God, this company wants to make it." And Josh said, "You told them our story?" And I said, "Hold on, I'll write that into the movie. It'll be perfect." So I wrote it and I vomited onto the page, and I wrote it very quickly. The first draft I wrote probably in like a week because I just knew the story very well. But that was not what you see that would not have been a good movie, but it was a good purging. And then I worked on the script probably, I don't know, up till we shot, I would say between a year to 2 years of really, and then it became further and further from reality and kind of became a better story, but we tried to keep the integrity and the sort of skeletal structure of what happened with us.
So the sequel would be Married Couple Directs Movie.
Yeah, we managed to stay together. That was intense.
How did that become you guys directing it together?
Do you want to?
Well, Simon originally knew that he wrote it for himself to star in, and did not have any necessary intention of directing it. He was actually going to have a friend direct it for him. And then as he started developing the material more and more, he realized how much he would like to be, involved in the direction of it. And I had just directed my first feature film, and he had helped me during the editing process, and we worked so well together on that he asked me if I would co-direct this with him, and I was really excited and honored to be asked to share that experience with him, and nervous too, because I wasn't sure how I'd feel about the script, but when I finally did get to read it and it made me laugh, it was a very, it ended up being a very cathartic experience to sort of retell the story and see it from a different angle and point of view and take control over it in some way. So
Get her revenge on me. Make me reenact those moments. And
No, we need another take of you crying.
yeah. No, you need to grovel more. I remember you were groveling, and the pitch of your voice was more of a schoolgirl.
You were not wearing anything nearly as nice that night.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now we're getting to the part where I'm sure a lot of these guys are interested. Finding your cast. When you're getting into making that, I'm sure you probably had some people in mind as you were writing it. I'm sure you had friends who were around. How did you start selecting those people, and how did you find friends that were willing to play versions of your people you already knew?
Well, yeah, we. I think that there's a mix of people, of friends, and people that we had never met, and we're incredibly lucky to get to play roles in this movie. Melanie was somebody that we had known for a long time and always wanted to be a part of this movie and wanted to play this part. And we were.
she actually knew us during the time that this happened as well.
Yeah.
Just coincidentally.
Yeah.
The collective, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it was, that was incredibly, I mean, and you still don't know if friends are going to say yes, and the worst thing that I could fear is that a friend would say yes out of obligation, but not really be interested in, so when I gave the script to Melanie, I was like, just please be honest if you're, however you feel about this. But we were so happy that she was interested in doing this, and that was a huge victory, because it's, the other half of this story. And people like Jason Ritter is one of my best friends for probably 20 years, I guess. And then
Anybody else smile gleefully when Judith Light showed up?
Yeah, and that was amazing. That was an incredible turn of.
She was so cool to work with.
She was.
And
yeah.
I just have to say, she walked on the set, and we were both. We had offered her the part, so we hadn't met her.
Never met, yeah.
And she showed up on that day, and we're both kind of like, oh my God, are we going to be able to direct her? She's, so incredible. And she walks right up to us and she goes, I love line readings, so if you want to tell me how to do anything, you can just do it exactly how you want me to do it.
Yeah, she was
and
like.
And that just took every ounce of nervousness out of us.
But she also then continued, and if you don't want to say anything, you don't have to say anything.
Yeah, I know, she was.
And I don't care if
so
you want to talk
cool
about it.
with
We don't have to
everything.
talk about it. But hold on 1 second. Hi, I'm Judith. Hi, I'm Judith. Hi, I'm Judith. I'm Judith. To everybody, it was like it was the greatest lesson of what it's not at all what I'm like, and I wish I could be like that. And I think the reason some people are not, is it's self-consciousness or something. I don't know. Like she comes in. It takes a lot to just be that nice. I guess it takes a lot of confidence for some reason when I think about it, to actually walk up to people, and it was this perfect balance of like I belong here, but I'm here to serve you, and it's a weird balance, because I just feel like I don't belong here, and I'm not going to do anything you tell me to do. No, I mean I'm a nice person, but I realize how much people kind of are in their own world, and even if you're not an asshole, if you're just a normal person. But she's like aggressively friendly and sat us down, and we within 10 minutes.
We were all like crying and talking within 10 minutes.
We were like talking
her.
about death and pets.
She's like an angel.
She really is, yeah.
She has this weird. I ran into her on the set of another movie recently. She had just finished a scene, and I was going to do a scene, and I had met her on your guys' movie for half an hour, and she was like, how's your boyfriend? What happened with this situation? What? And I just was like, oh my God, she remembers everything that I told her.
Yeah.
Like she's very present and
Yeah,
so
and she's
sweet.
and then as an actress, it's like she was like, I'm just gonna try stuff, and she would do things different to the point of like she'd come up and be like, was that too big? And we'd say it was a little big maybe for that part, and then she'd come up and be like, she'd do it again, and it would be unbelievable, and then she said, should I do it like that? And we'd be like, just have fun. She'd do another one. It was like, oh, okay, so they were all just taking chances, and I freaked out at one point. It was a very hard day, and we were it was raining on one side of the shot, and the other it wasn't, and we were losing light, and it was like, and I started to have, we did all my takes rolling, just kept the camera rolling. We did 2 scenes, and all the takes consecutively. I was losing my mind, and she like grabbed me and said, are you okay? And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm one of the directors. I was like, I'm used to being an actor that can have panic attacks on the set, but I was like, oh, I should be a director. And she was just like, honey, you are. It's okay. You're looking at me, and it's just like amazing.
She talked him down.
Yeah, she talked me down. So anyway, not to just harp on Judith, because everybody,
Those taking notes, work with Judith Light.
And Fred Molina is another one that we hadn't met and showed up and just knew every word cold and was ready to play.
It was our longest day. It was our second day of shooting.
Yeah.
It was a 10-page day, which was our longest
Some of
page
it got
count.
cut, which is
It
why.
was so crazy, yeah.
But he had a tremendous amount to say, and he did it impeccably, and
He was just so prepared.
He had
yeah.
ideas and questions that were all like so respectful and so just tuned in to what the character, what we were doing, and what kind of movie it was. And he was trying to get a movie made in this sort of budget, and he asked, very humble, and he's one of the great actors. So it was like it was an incredible. We got very lucky. Everyone in here. I think it's just Eben, who plays Guillaume.
I was actually just about to ask about Evan because he shares scenes with both of you, and he does that thing of like, I imagine it's very hard to play that guy everybody has to hate, but he still has to be charming enough to prove why Melanie would be with him.
Yeah, and that is something that a lot of the brutal truth of some of this is that some of the people that are on screen were not the people that we first went out to for these parts. It's just how it goes, because you're forced to try to get famous people to be very famous people. And even if you want somebody creatively, you got to try to because you got to raise money, and that's just how things go. And
Can
Eben,
John Hamm play French?
yeah, no, so exactly. So Eben was somebody that we didn't know. We had to kind of go and see if some other this person or that person, and we got through the casting director. She recommended a few people, and she was amazing, and she sent us his tape, and it was all dramatic stuff. It was like John Adams and some independent movie with
Toni Collette.
Yeah, and he was playing this he had this quality that was so natural and kind of pompous and kind of introverted, and that bohemian, I don't know, there was just something very, and also slightly off, in an amazing way, and in the way where you're like, what is this guy? He's amazing. And we just offered it to him, and we met him on the first day, and he did it exactly. It was better and more nuanced than we ever could have imagined. And he makes me laugh. I wrote him, and I said, you are the person. I've watched the movie about 500 times, and I laugh every single time you're on. So we were very, very lucky.
You mentioned briefly a little going insane, a panic attack, but this was a very short shoot. You didn't have a huge budget, and you shot in Paris for how many days?
For 3 days in Paris.
And then the whole shoot was how long again?
23 days.
Yeah.
so 20 days in New York, yeah.
So, and then also the set design, all of your Paris interiors were in New York.
Yes. Yeah.
So how did the team you assembled to build this film, a large portion of them women?
Yes.
So could you please tell me about that and building the team that was going to make all of this happen in 23 days?
Someone actually, when I was doing an interview, someone asked if we intentionally tried hiring more women for our production team. And the truth is we didn't. We just hired the best people for the job, and they happened to be women. So.
Fist pump. I like you.
Polly Morgan is our cinematographer, and she's a British woman who just came in and started talking about the job like she had the job, and we were just all of a sudden not doing an interview but doing our first work session together, and she was so passionate. We just loved her.
We were scared of her. Let's be honest. No.
And then Alexandra Schaller is the production designer, and she is very young, very motivated.
She's like a prodigy.
Like, she's like a prodigy, yeah.
Probably mid-20s, and she had designed Sleep No More, which is a show in New York. That's all... Yeah. It's like I haven't seen it, but it's interactive, 3 stories of... So basically every drawer in every desk on every story is designed by an art director, and it was her. And we had read all about this, so we had seen clips of her movies, and she just, again, came in and was like...
And she had the job when she walked in because she was just prepared, and she came in with these ideas that we didn't even have about it. And
funny how many people don't prepare for interviews because
it's
they're
so
waiting
crazy.
to get the job in order to show you what they do.
Don't come in
but
with material. Like,
yeah.
you know, you would think that you would, as actors, we work and we prepare for the audition, but a lot of times people walk in not prepared, and it's crazy. Like,
and being on this side of it, it was so much. It was so clear when somebody would come in and say, "This is how I would shoot this scene," or "This is how I would dress this person," or as opposed to, "Yeah, so it's great, and that's a really cool part of it, and I did it," you know, and you're like, "Oh," and you see the resume, and you think, "Okay, I guess," but it's very hard. It would be like, you know, an actor coming in, not knowing anything about them, or getting to see them read, and just them being like, you know, "Yeah, I think the scene could be great." You know. Okay, me too. I wrote it, so I hope it could be great. But you know, and Ooh, ow, my tooth. So anyway, yeah, but it was surprising.
Yeah. The way you guys shot Paris was very different than I think I've seen it filmed in an American way. You kind of, and the church scene is absolutely hilarious. But you're in these very picturesque areas, and I'd love to know, being there and trying to capture the energy of that city, what were some of the challenges shooting abroad and working scenes together in public places where you don't have a lot of time?
well, we wanted to find places that were personal to us and also not widely shot as much, because we have all seen the bridge with the locks on it. Like, that's been shot a million. You know, we've all seen certain iconic parts of Paris, but we really felt that Paris was a character in the film, and we wanted it to be personal and specific. And so, you know, we really did go to Père Lachaise and argue, and, you know, amongst the gravestones, and so we were lucky enough to be able to shoot there, and then we just
And our producer said, "Hey, I've been in Paris, and once a month in the summer, there's these rollerbladers that they rollerblade around 10:30 at night, and they go all across the bridge and under the Eiffel Tower." And we were like, "Oh, I guess we have to show the Eiffel Tower." We didn't really want to do a kiss in front of the Eiffel Tower, which we ended up doing, but we figured a way to do it a little less on the nose, I guess, so that there was a little bit of an element that maybe you hadn't seen, which are these rollerbladers going by, or from a carousel, or whatever it was. And then, yeah, we shot very quickly, as we did in all the places, but the crew in Paris was amazing, and we met them. It was the same that you meet them that day, but which is not the way
we got off
you know.
the plane, we shot that night. We did an all-night shoot the night that we landed, and then we had a half day off and did the next couple of days because we just didn't have the time to do anything.
And the crew is done in in Paris,
Yeah,
12
they work
hours.
different
that
hours.
is like, they're like,
They're
boom,
over,
like drop
yeah.
the mic, good night, and that's it. And there's no like one more, you know, it's not. And they also have their hour lunch where they have their cappuccinos and they have a glass of wine. And that is it. That is they don't have unions, I don't think. I don't think they do. I don't think they do,
How
actually.
do they have those rules?
I guess maybe that's.
They have to have some. Yeah,
Well, then their
there
unions
are.
force them to drink wine at lunch. So, take note. I guess.
If they go on strike, do they switch to the white?
Yeah, exactly. I guess that is all. Yeah, I guess that's their unions being incredibly, incredibly strict. But it was. But at the same time, they also kind of. The reason I didn't think they did was because there was a point where they got tired one day before the 12 hours, and they said, "We are tired." We said, "Okay." They said, "We don't want to shoot anymore. We need a break." So I was like, I don't really understand. How do we? Okay, I mean, I'm tired too, and that really happened. So that's why I was like, I don't think that's a union. I don't know what but they were also incredibly efficient. The sound was so amazing that our post sound guys were like, "What kind of mic did they use? I've never heard anything so clear." And
Did you see? Did they put the same microphone pack situation on you as on me?
I don't know what happened
What
to
was
you.
it?
I had this leg, like a microphone strapped to my leg, but the thing they used to hold the microphone on was like a lacy top of a stocking.
Oh wow! Only
You know
in
how-
France, yeah.
But it was so comfortable and it stayed on and it never, you know how usually it's those big bands and they fall
Right.
down and you're in
Yeah.
the middle of like screaming and crying and you feel it slide
There's a
down.
garter.
Yeah, it was like a garter belt, so it was very
They put
sexy.
a brassiere on me, and they just okay, whatever.
But the sound was
When
great.
in France,
yeah.
it was well. However, their lacy, the lacy technique, whatever it may be.
I would like to know where you can get these mic things as well.
Yeah, exactly, a garter.
So, I wanted to talk to you briefly about you. It's interesting that you are putting yourself, a version of yourself, up on screen so honestly, and it's something so close to you. How do you decide how much of yourself you're going to let the audience have, considering at the end of the day you want to still go home and be Simon that people don't know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think I found a version of myself that. Well, my plan was to be just very honest about and just tell the story and be as honest as I could in the writing and in the performance, and I wasn't really trying to hide anything or protect this from people knowing it about me, this part about me or this element, even though it's pretty much embarrassing from beginning to end but it's vulnerable, I guess. But by the time I finished writing it, there were elements that were sort of far enough away from me, and the character became its own character that I didn't quite feel like I was making a documentary. But I think I actually kind of went a little too far, and when we were shooting it, Jocelyn directed me, sort of had me kind of step back from. I mean, you can maybe describe it better, I guess.
I think that things when you in retrospect, when you look back on things and you're judging your past self and you say, well, I was this way and that way, he was sort of damning his character in the movie. His character was a lot more innocent and not knowing of the things that he was doing that were so bad at the time.
I played it with some more remorse or like awareness or maturity.
He was playing it with a maturity and a guilt and almost, he was judging the character from the place that he was at now. So we had to sort of dial it back and kind of go back to a place where it was before.
And some of it we did in editing, and we fixed things that we brought out. It was originally, the way it was shot, there was more, he was lying more. The character lied throughout. He didn't tell Devin that he had done stuff with Kelsey. He lied, and so some of that's ADR'd and stuff that we and edited and reshot a couple little things too to make him more compulsively honest, as opposed to a guy who gets caught up and is lying and is sort of trying to manipulate this thing or that, which, and it was subtle, but we realized at the end it already really walks the line of being a majorly unlikable story, character, I think, and some people don't like it, and some people do. But I think before we pushed it very far. We had him be, even showing up at the end to the grandparents' house. He just became more grating as we we're going through the editing process, we realized, he's too, so, we have to dial it back. So, so by when I watch this now,
So you literally annoyed yourself into
I-
editing your film.
I can't even tell you. I think I drove myself insane. And even sitting here tonight, I've seen it. I like to see it with an audience because it takes me out of watching it. And when you watch it in a dark room, I just couldn't take it anymore. I've never hated a human being more than I hate myself.
Sorry,
yeah.
I have to go because there's a baby outside.
There is a
Yeah.
baby.
You hear him?
I may be back, or I may be not.
Aw.
Yes. Born during the screening tonight, guys. That's how amazing she is.
So Maggie Grace is quite capable in her role and very tragic at the end. She's the one that kind of just innocently got caught up in all this. Finding her as the actress to portray that character,
Yeah.
how is that process working with her, and how were those scenes together in the end? And I'd love to know
Yeah.
that working relationship.
Yeah, she was lovely to work with. She came on very early. She may have been actually, gosh, I don't remember if she was first. I don't remember how it all unfolded, but she was a fan from the beginning and came in and had a lot of ideas. Had a little trepidation about doing a comedy because she hasn't really, I guess. And my main note to her when she said that before we had even started was, don't, very cliche, no, but just not to play it as a comedy and to really play. This is a major moment for that character when she confesses her love for him, and this is the guy that can save her, and it will hopefully, I think, be funny in the end because it comes out of left field and they seem mismatched, but we worked on that. We talked about the relationship. We talked about them being a lot like a brother and a sister, and all the hitting that she does, and the sort of tomboyish quality. But that her belief in this being the man for her is genuine, and we tried to play it from a real place. It was nice, very nice, working with her, and yeah.
So the relationship that you guys had in the film, your character has to balance dejection and yearning and a lot. There's a lot going on there. When you're working with the people who lived through it, how much liberty did you feel like you wanted to take so that the character was yours, and how much did you want to pay back to Jocelyn?
Well, Simon called me to tell me about the movie, and he was kind of like, do you remember the time when? And I was like, yeah, I think everyone remembers. But I was terrified of reading the script. And then I read it, and it was removed enough, like the characters were different enough that I felt comfortable to sort of put my own take on it, and there wasn't a sort of like murky thing of like, oh God, that's a lot like this person that I know, and I remember that, there was enough that was similar that it felt very personal, but it didn't feel creepy. And then, which was nice. And then I had dinner with Simon and Jocelyn and said, I love the script so much, and they were very, very comforting and said, we don't want you to play like a version of Joss, we don't need you to, be doing an impersonation or trying to, So I felt very comfortable doing my own sort of thing with it. It was nice.
And I really do like how you liberated Spock there quite a bit.
Yeah, Zach was another. We were very lucky.
That was definitely, like, I got to know, did you go to him and say, we want as fun and strange as you want to be, or did he bring that to the character? Because on the page, that character could have been played pretty straight-laced.
Yeah, it was. We had a pretty clear idea of what we wanted and what we wanted him to wear, and what the little elements of just odd, corning his own beef, or there were moments of things that just sort of gave an insight into that kind of guy, that eccentric sort of man-child, the trust fundy, bohemian guy that I know many people like. And I was nervous because I had never met him, and he really liked it, and he hadn't done anything quite like this. And when we got the whatever that was, like the orange poncho, I was like, he might just quit. But he was so game that there were points where we were like, I think we should dial this back a little. And you're sure a sarong is okay? So but he was game, and he totally got the kind of guy it was. And we had meetings and talked a lot about it, and we tried to flesh it out with everybody, and we had a great crew, costume, all that stuff. There's so much set design and costume that tells you what's going on before anybody speaks, and we were really lucky. So,
Well, we have some questions from the audience. Greg Tamura has a question for both Simon and Melanie. How was the auditioning process for you? Was it good? Did you get the role?
I called myself back a handful of times.
Was there anything in particular that helped you book this part?
Well, I mean, I won't. That doesn't apply exactly to either of us, given what we've explained. But we did have auditions, and it was actually being on the other side, though, was very, very interesting and very uncomfortable, especially in New York, because it's such small quarters, and you're like literally sitting, and your knees are touching, like the person reading, and you're like, oh. So it was wow. Gosh, going in and auditioning is such a strange thing. Anyhow,
And judging by the first 20 minutes of this movie, that made you very uncomfortable.
Yeah. It was. I'm an uncomfortable person in those situations, but it was great. We had a great casting director, and I again learned from just being on that side of it. But mostly the smaller roles were auditioned.
This is from, if I say the last name wrong, I'm sorry, Colleen Brawl? Bra? Oh, cool.
Hey, Bra.
What up, Bra? What is one thing you know now about acting and the business that you wish you knew when you had first started the project, or in general? In general. Oh, in general.
Do you want to take that first?
I think for myself, I spent a lot of time wishing I was thinner, prettier, whatever, any number of different things, and being like, oh, if I look like Tara Reid. When I started, she was like the big thing. Not to be mean, but like if I was like, oh God, if I look like that, then everything would be easier, and spend a lot of time not eating and not being kind to myself, and it's just such a waste of time. Everybody's unique. All you have to offer is that you're who you are, and all the things that make you up are the things that you have to bring to your characters. And I wish that I had realized that a little earlier and kind of let myself off the hook, And it's also just a good thing for the world if people who look a number of different ways are represented on screen. I wish there was more of that.
Mine is not nearly as profound. Wishing I was more muscular and handsome. I don't know. There are things that I used to do that I actually think I should do a little more of now. And there are things that I did too much of that weren't beneficial. Just because I've been in a situation where I've been working for the last 7 years, and I haven't really gotten to do a tremendous amount of things outside of the show. So in some ways you're just doing the same kind of grind over and over again. I mean, I think that what I can look back on is that there were a lot of auditions and things that I went on that, and again, being on the other side here taught me too that there are actually, in all honesty, there really are incidents where you are the best person that comes in, or you do the best job in the room, and you're just not right for the part. And I never believed anybody that said that to me, and because I just was like, it doesn't make any sense, like, and so I have to work harder. And I think some of the stuff. So in some ways, it was good that I kept working really hard. But then I think there is that point at which you're tormenting yourself. I think I obsessed to a point that it wasn't work. It was just it was torture. And I think I started to realize, there really is, you work as hard as you need to work, and you go in, and I'm still not great at this, but you let go. And I think even in performing or in movies or watching myself, I think letting go is something, I guess, that when you're on the set and when you're watching, or if you are watching yourself, or whatever you do comes out, or if it's a play and you're doing, just being able to trust that you've done your amount of work you need to do, because the rest of it is detrimental to your health and to your performance, I think.
And I think the last question we're going to be able to do is from Scott. Please share a funny or funny experience on set. Did you just mutter, "Oh God"?
Yeah. Fun. Fun. It was not. It was really grueling. I mean, Melanie almost fainted the first day because it was the heat wave, biggest heat wave in New York City in 40 years.
And we were filming inside with no air conditioning, and it was
Yeah.
crazy. That was fun.
That was fun.
And funny.
That's hilarious.
Welcome to our set, Melanie. It was, and then when we did post, it was the what's it called? The Arctic or the polar vortex. So that was the coldest day in New York in 100 years. So we I don't know what happened, but there was an odd element where I wish Jocelyn was here but it's sort of like the movie. Actually, there was a lot of times we could not fit our crew or director or anybody in the apartment because it was that small. So they would be either down, there were some brownstones, they would be 3 stories down, or they would be in a different apartment across the way and talking to us through walkie-talkie. So we would do a scene, and then this little black box of judgment and criticism.
We just both would be standing there, looking at it this.
The first AD would be,
crazy
literally, I would
people.
hear, Jocelyn, bring me to Simon. And I'd be like, oh, and the AD would bring this walkie-talkie over, and she'd be like, am I in front of Simon? And I'd be like, yes, you're in front of me. And she'd be like, so here's the, and everybody was listening, and she's just saying sometimes it would be something like, are you doing something with your eyes? Because you look kind of cross-eyed. And I'd be like, and it's just like, no, I'm not doing anything. Really? And then I'd hear and it was just this little walkie-talkie. It was like my wife, the walkie-talkie. It was crazy. And then I'd be like, take that fucking walkie-talkie away, please. And then she'd be like, don't you take me away from Simon. And I'd be like, don't you yell. So it was that was ridiculous. But we were pretty healthy and functional, and we didn't bring in any sort of messy stuff. But the walkie-talkie really I almost threw it out the window. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a moment in Paris where, because we did get off the plane, we slept for an hour maybe, and then we did a night shoot. And I was so jet lagged. When I woke up after the hour, I just started sobbing instantly because I was so tired.
Yeah.
And then we were doing this night shoot, and we both were delirious, and we had to eat these cockles on the boat and all this stuff, and we just were sitting there. But then there was this moment where I just sort of looked up, and we were on the Seine, and these buildings were going past, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in Paris with some of my favorite people in the world who are making this movie. It's the middle of the night. I feel like a crazy person, but I've never been happier.
Yeah, that's very sweet. I had a lot of moments, and I actually consciously made myself take a beat every day because when we first started, I couldn't believe that everybody, and there's a whole story for a whole other time about how hard it was getting this made, but that we were doing this. I couldn't believe that I was waiting off camera to do this scene that I had written and sometimes had lived elements of, and that I had this crew working to tell that story and these great actors waiting to say those lines. I would sometimes get choked up just before I would go out to do it, and I tried to remind myself every day that we shot it, because it was hard, it was grueling. I lost 15 pounds doing it. It was like climbing a mountain where you're like, was it fun for Edmund Hillary to climb? Like, did his nose turn black and fall off? Like, was that fun? No, but I guess it's at the end it's an achievement. So that's the process can really take it out of you if you don't consciously say, oh my God, okay, this is what we do. This is what we're doing for a living and for fun. And I'm so honored to be here. So that's.
Well, as an audience member, I can tell you it's one of the loveliest romantic comedies I've seen for quite some time. We very much enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I know it goes on to Edinburgh next, so
Yes.
Congratulations there. And ladies and gentlemen, let's thank Simon and Melanie one more time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
and
very
Jocelyn
much.
as well.
And Jocelyn, and thank you,
Yes.
Brian. And thank you all for coming.